I was swaying to the music with the hottest girl at school in my arms. Everything was perfect when suddenly I saw a flurry of red storming toward me, and then the next thing I knew, I was being slapped across the face. Ugh, it was my ex, Rosie. She was looking at me as if she wanted to snap me in half. Okay, so Rosie and me had only broken up yesterday, but that didn't mean she had the right to go full psycho on me. Hey, so I'm Andrew, and I like to think I'm a pretty smart guy. The problem is, I'm a sucker for hot girls. I tend to be blinded by their beauty. The result being, I don't always make the best decisions around them. But I had no idea what drama my weakness for a pretty girl was about to get me into. So it all began with the end-of-term college party. Me and my friends went heavy on the drinks. So when my friend Brad bet me a burger that I wouldn't go and ask Lisa to dance, well, I didn't hesitate in approaching her. Geez, she's so hot and way out of my league. So I was expecting her to tell me to go away, but instead she smiled and let me lead her over to the dance floor. While we were dancing, she whispered in my ear that she'd always liked me. Then, yep, you guessed it, Rosie, my crazy ex, stormed over and slapped me. I woke up the next morning with a pounding headache. Ugh, what was all that shouting coming from outside my open window? I wrapped my bed cover around me and shuffled my way over there to take a look. Lisa and Rosie were yelling at each other. He's mine, not yours. Stay away. He wants me, not you. Deal with it. Oh yeah? Well, maybe we should ask Andrew who he prefers. What's the point? As we both know he'll pick me. I was far too hungover for this, so I closed the window and went back to bed. These girls, they wouldn't stop. For the next few days, they bombarded me with messages and waited for me outside my house. Okay, so most guys dream of two hot girls fighting over them, but trust me, watching them pull each other's hair extensions out isn't as glamorous as it sounds. Thankfully, my prayers were answered by none other than Richie, my awesome brother. He showed up with a ticket for a luxury 2-week cruise trip. He'd booked it ages ago, but then a work thing came up, so the ticket was all mine. Hell yeah! I hugged my brother, grabbed the ticket out of his hand, and started packing. The tricky part was sneaking past Rosie and Lisa, who were still lingering about outside. So I borrowed my housemate's hoodie and baseball cap and pretended to be him to get past them. Result, they didn't even double look at me. Goodbye to my Lisa and Rosie nightmare and hello to the vacation of my dreams. Ah, this is the life. Trust my brother to book such a lavish place. My room was huge and it had my very own balcony. There was so much to do here, from the outdoor bar, dozens of restaurants, swimming pool, cinema. I was on my own floating complex. Heaven. The next morning when I woke up in my king-size bed, I took in the sounds of silence. Yup, oh sweet silence, how I've missed you. This was a no-girl arguing zone. I got changed and walked over to the outdoor bar. It definitely wasn't too early for a cocktail. I had a pair of shades on, and that's when I spotted her. Whoa, she was beautiful. I quickly ordered 2 cocktails and began walking toward her. I was about to hand her the drink when I tripped over a sun lounger, and in slow motion I watched the cup fall. I desperately tried to grab it, but nope. Instead, I managed to knock into her back. She let out a yelp and then yelled out, "You pervert! What do you think you're playing at?" I stood there open-mouthed, contemplating if I should dive into the pool to escape this drama or not. Then I looked down at my sunglasses, which in all the action had fallen off. Suddenly, an idea came to me. So I bent down, stretched out my arms, and pretended to fumble around for them. She looked at me for a while, then picked my sunglasses up, placed them in my hand, then said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Here, let me help you." Then she took my arm and guided me across the pool area. I thanked her. And then, with my trusty shades on, I watched her walk away. So she thought I was blind. Yup, this wasn't my greatest idea, but it got me out of a sticky situation with a hot girl at least. Later that night, I went to the buffet restaurant for dinner. I was stacking my plate when I bumped straight into someone and almost dropped my plate. Ugh, it was that hot girl again. I quickly put my shades on, then deliberately turned the wrong way and loudly said, "Oh, I'm sorry." She put her hand on my shoulder and guided me so I was facing her, then said, "Yeah, it's me, the girl from the pool. And it's okay, I should have been looking where I was going. Do you need any help?" I quickly cut her off. "No thanks, it's okay." Then I lifted my plate up to my nose and sniffed it. These prawns sure smell good. She raised an eyebrow at my food-smelling talent, so I carried on pretending to sniff the food as I put it on my plate. And you know what? She wouldn't quit staring at me. Eventually, she walked off. Phew, what a narrow escape. Afterward, I went to the top deck bar to chill out. with yet another cocktail, then who should walk over but, yup, you guessed it, the hot girl. I immediately looked away from her, but what's this? She walked over to me and sat down opposite me. "Hey, do you remember me?" she asked. Seeing my chance to flirt with her, I replied, "Oh yes, how could I forget someone as beautiful as you are?" "Huh? How do you know that I'm beautiful?" Damn it, I needed to think before I spoke. "Ah, well, it's your voice. A sweet voice like yours can only belong to a beautiful girl." Crisis averted. As after that we started chatting, and oh boy, she's a sweetheart. Do you know that she's an activist for an organization that works hard to guarantee the rights of baby girls born in Africa? I know, amazing. The evening came to an end and she said, "Oh, my name's Bella, by the way." I replied, "Bella, a name as beautiful as your soul. Mine's Andrew." She gave me a nervous giggle. "Well, Andrew, it's getting late, so I suppose I better get back to my cabin." I didn't want the night to ever end, so I blurted out, "Whoa, Bella, look at the sky. Isn't it so stunning?" She glared at me and then replied, "How would you know that?" Oops, of course, I was meant to be blind. I can feel it from the breeze." She gave me a quizzing look, then said, "Right. Well, good night. How about we meet at the arcade tomorrow, let's say 10 a.m.? I excitedly agreed, then she left. Another close escape. I really needed to be more careful. Bella, Bella, Bella. I couldn't stop thinking of her. The next day, I'm such a kid when it comes to arcades, I can't help it. My inner child comes out and, ooh, a car racing game. Nope, I was pretending to be blind. So I awkwardly lingered in the foyer and waited for Bella to show up. When she did, she took my arm and guided me through the arcade. She described all the different games machines to me, which I thought was really sweet. Then she led me over to the plushie grabber machine and squealed excitedly. Hoo-hoo, I loved these as a kid. Soon I was fumbling about to slot my money in, adamant I was going to win her a plushie. But wait, I was meant to be blind. So I touched the controls, then closed my eyes. Her laughter said it all. Massive fail. It was all going to be okay until Bella had to use the restroom and instructed me to stay put and wait for her by a shooting game machine, which just so happened to be my all-time favorite arcade game. I rushed over to it as soon as she was out of sight, grabbed a gun, and shot 5 cannons in a row. Then I jumped up and down and whooped in the air. I turned around and saw Bella frowning at me. Oh boy, busted. I tried to explain, but she just shook her head and said, "How could you? You're a coward, a pervert, and a liar." Then she ran off. I felt terrible. I tried searching the ship for her, but I couldn't find her anywhere. Feeling bummed out, I ordered a cocktail, then went for a walk across the deck. Suddenly, I heard shouting coming from below me. Huh? What was that? I peered down and saw a man and a woman trying to drag a little girl into one of the safety rafts. Hang on, they weren't alone. Bella was there too. She was trying to pull the little girl away from them. Without even thinking, I dropped my drink and ran over to them. I charged towards the woman and knocked her so hard she almost fell into the sea. The man reached out to steady her, which gave Bella a chance to pick up the kid. Then she grabbed my arm and pulled me away. After that, the bad guys jumped into the raft and sailed away. We returned the girl to her parents. It turns out Bella was on her way to her cabin when she saw a couple in tears as they couldn't find their daughter. So she went looking for her and walked in on the kidnapping. After that, Bella forgave me. Well, I did save the day and all. And we spent the rest of the trip together. Then on our last day, I got down on one knee and asked her to be my girlfriend. And she said yes. I took her back home with me, and as we walked over to my house, Lisa and Rosie ran towards me and started arguing with each other about who I liked more. Oh shoot, I'd forgotten about them. Reading the situation, Bella approached them. "Thank God you're here. I assume one of you is his girlfriend, right? There was an accident, and Andrew's blind now, and he really needs someone by his side 24/7. Hearing that, I quickly coordinated with her by waving my arms wildly about. "So, which one is your girlfriend, Andy?" It's Lisa," Rosie quickly chimed in. "No, he's all yours. We only hung out once." Ha, what suckers. I watched them run away. Then Bella and I burst out laughing. After that, I held my arm out to her and let her guide me home, for old time's sake. Lying to her about being blind was a jerky thing to do, but I only did it in the first place because being around beautiful girls makes me so nervous I do dumb stuff. It's just lucky that Bella forgave me, because I think this dumbass may have found his dream girl.
It was just a regular school day, and I was sorting out my locker when suddenly I heard hushed whispers and noticed that everyone else was staring at something. Okay, So turns out it wasn't a something, but a someone. As this pretty girl strutted down the corridor like it was a runway or something. Ugh. Why was everyone gawping at her, rushing over to greet her, and sticking notepads in her face for her to sign? I hugged my books and muttered, geez, there's nothing special about her. So, my name's Lily, and I'm just a normal girl. My family, yeah, they're normal. My appearance, normal. And my social status, well, that's just normal too. I coast through life, and that's it. Nothing exciting ever happens to a regular girl like me. Oh, how I long to be the perfect looking girls on Instagram. They're so flawless in their clear skin, stylish clothes, and glossy hair. But those girls were different. They were from different worlds. Oh well, at least I still had my books, my bestie Sarah, and my cute boyfriend Brian. But this all changed when Stacy rocked up at school with her perfect looks and her "I'm so sweet and friendly" routine. Yeah, right. So, what if she had a prettyish face and a bit part in some TV show? Underneath the fake shine, she was clearly not all that. I walked into English class to see her sitting at the desk next to mine. Ugh, great. I couldn't even get to my seat because everyone else was surrounding her, asking her dumb questions such as, "What shampoo do you use?" and "Do you get snack breaks when you film your show?" Geez, give me a break instead. Then, when I finally managed to sit down, she smiled at me and in this sickly sweet voice said, "Hi, I hope it's okay I sit here. I'm Stacy." Yeah, sure. I forced a smile back, but on the inside, my anger was boiling over. Who did this girl think she was? So what if she was beautiful? I bet she only cared about her looks and never bothered studying. Yeah, everyone else would soon realize what a failure she was. Then, one time during recess, Stacy, the living Barbie doll, suggested we start a yearbook, and now everyone's treating her like she's achieved world peace or something. Ugh! You know the worst part of it? I've been saying we should start a yearbook for years, but no one listened to me. And guess who received so many welcome cards and love notes that they fell out of her locker and obstructed the hallway? Yup, Stacy. Gosh! It's been like weeks already. When will these stop? I hated how she thanked everyone and blushed and ugh. I needed to be around a sane person who didn't think the sun shone out of her. She was everywhere. It made me sick. But thank God for lunchtime. It became the only peaceful time of the day for me, when I could hang out with Sarah and not have to worry about Stacy. But, what was this? What was that Barbie doll doing sitting at our table and talking to my best friend? I walked over there and placed my tray down next to Sarah. "Oh, hi, Lily. Stacy just said the funniest thing." "Great," I muttered under my breath. Lunch was an ordeal. Sarah ignored me and kept on asking Stacy dumb questions like, "Is your co-star Kyle as handsome in real life?" And, "How do you style printed skirts with a colored tee?" Yawn! Later that day, due to a paint spillage in art, I was 5 minutes late out. Sarah had agreed to drive me home, but I went out to the parking lot. Her car wasn't there. Then I checked my phone and saw that she'd messaged me. "Where are you? I can't wait anymore. I'll leave first with Stacy. See you tomorrow, X." What? Is she ditching me to give that phony a ride? We had been friends since childhood. How could she be fooled for Stacy's act and just throw away our friendship like that? Angry, I messaged her back, "You abandoned me for Little Miss Popular? How could you? I get it. New one in, old one out. Well, thanks a lot." My phone buzzed with her reply. "Lily, you know it isn't like that. You live up the road from school while Stacy lives much further away and she needed to get back in time to get ready for her filming schedule." Madder than ever, I quickly typed out my reply. "Whatever. It's too bad you'll always be a nobody in her eyes and she's just using you for a free ride." Then I chucked my phone onto my bed. I'd had enough. Sarah had made her choice and it was to be friends with that fake over me. Sarah may have fallen into the Stacy trap, but at least I still had Brian, right? One afternoon, I was talking to him out in the schoolyard when Stacy tottered past. Even her try-too-hard walk was annoying. She smiled over my Brian. Then she deliberately tripped up and dropped the books she was holding. I grabbed Brian's arm to stop him from going over, but he shook himself free from my grip and went over to her anyway. I watched him help her pick her books up, and then she blushed and squeaked out a "thank you." She was the worst. When he walked back over to me with this big grin on his face, I couldn't take it anymore. So I blurted out to him, "How dare you leave me to help her?" He gave me a confused look.
"Lily, I was just helping her out."
"Yeah, right. You knew she dropped them on purpose to get your attention, but you went over there to her anyway because you think she's prettier than me." He sighed.
"You're being ridiculous. You know what? I can't deal with your selfish, jealous streak anymore. Let's just call it a day. We're done."
Then he walked off. I stood there watching him, expecting him to cool down and come back. Only he didn't. This was all Stacy's fault. She'd stolen my best friend and my boyfriend. No more. It was time to show her that she wasn't so perfect after all. I scrolled through her social media pages for ideas, and it soon became apparent that she loves boys with toned abs who ride motorbikes. How predictable. I discovered this website where I could hire a boy to play with her heart, then ditch her. It's about time she learned how much it sucked to be undesirable and worthless. Ha! I found the perfect guy called Josh. He was 19, a gym addict, and he had a motorbike. Whoa, he was expensive, but it would be worth it, right? I arranged to meet him at the local coffee shop, and geez, he was even more handsome in person. I wished I could use this money to actually make him mine. Sigh. So, the deal is, he's gonna flirt with Stacy, make her love him deeply, and then break up with her. The next Monday, I walked out of school to see Josh parked up to the school gate, holding his helmet and looking like he belonged in a movie. Naturally, every girl was staring at him, but he made a beeline for Stacy. Then, just 1 week later, I saw him picking up Stacy from the school. Whoa! I knew that! I knew I had chosen the right person. Josh was such a lady killer. They looked super close, and I had to remind myself that he was just an actor and he was doing his job. Ha! She was gonna be so heartbroken. But a few weeks later, and he was still picking her up. Huh? Why hadn't he broken up with her yet? So I called him up and asked him what was taking him so long. He replied that he would do it soon. He was just making her fall for him more before he did it. Brutal. Only the weeks passed by and he still hadn't ended it. Then I was walking past the movie theater and I spotted them there, kissing. What? This was not the plan! Furious, I had arranged to meet him the next day at the coffee shop. He walked over and couldn't even meet my eye as he said,
"I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. I will refund you as soon as I can."
Why? Have you fallen in love with her or something? I said jokingly. There was a long silence. Then he looked down at the table and muttered out,
"Yeah, I have."
Why was I the only one on the planet who saw how fake she was? Thanks to her siren ways, I lost my best friend, my boyfriend, and now my savings. This was it. I needed to confront her. The next day at school, I tried finding her, but she was nowhere to be found. Then, as I passed through the school garden, I saw her sitting there. Gotcha! It's time to tell her exactly what I thought of her. I stormed over to her and opened my mouth to speak, but why was she crying? When she saw me, she managed to smile and said, "Oh, hi Lily. Is there a chance you could help me?" I stared at her with disbelief. Did she think I was under her spell and would do her bidding? But then I saw what she was crying about. In her hands was her English essay with a big F on it. So I replied, why me? You're so smart. You answer all the questions in class correctly. I don't want to be judged on my bad grades. That's why I left my last school. The other kids call me a brainless beauty. I moved here for a fresh start, and now I'm still failing. Okay, so in that moment, I realized that there were things I was good at. My grades were good, and I was pretty great at remembering facts. I'd just been so blinded by jealousy that I lost focus on these things and only saw what I didn't have. None of this was Stacy's fault. She never actually done anything bad to me. I'd made it all up in my head because I was jealous of her. So I sat down next to her and said, "No one's gonna call you that because I'll help you study." "You will?" She gave me a hopeful smile and I nodded. Thank you so much, she flung her arms around me. So that's how Stacy went from being my enemy to my friend. She's actually a really sweet and kind-hearted girl. No wonder why everyone admired her so much. And I was wrong to judge her on her appearance and not give her a fair chance. She's still with Josh and she doesn't know that I hired him to break her heart. But hey, she now has a hunky boyfriend who adores her, so that could be considered compensation, right? Brian and I are still over, but thinking about it, maybe this was for the best. I know I overreacted, but he gave me up so easily, and well, I want to find a guy who won't do that. As for Sarah, I went around to her house with a bag full of her favorite candy, and I apologized for being a jealous jerk. Luckily for me, she forgave me. Now, Sarah, Stacy, and I have become good friends. Sarah and I both help Stacy with her studies, and she gives us fashion tips. And you know what? I've come to realize that I'm pretty after all. I just needed to discover my spark. So finally, I learned that no one's perfect. Perfection is just an illusion. The most important thing is that we feel happy with what we own and never stop improving ourselves. So just be you and let everyone else concentrate on being them.
I blinked open my eyes. Whoa, my head felt dizzy. And, why was I covered in scratches? My mind was totally blank. I couldn't remember what happened. The last picture flashing through my mind was a heated argument between me and some guy. Then I stormed off and now, here I am, in this gloomy place. I think it's a basement or something. It's cold, and it stinks of damp. Dang it! I cannot remember his face. I knew I needed to get out of here, and fast. I ran to the door and tried opening it, but to no avail. It's locked. I slammed my hands against the door and shouted, "Anyone? Help!" I could hear footsteps approaching, so ignoring my throbbing palms and burning throat, I banged on the door and screamed out, "Open the door!" Oh my God! It's him! The guy I'd been arguing with before! He was holding a sandwich and smiling gently at me. "Oh, Alice, my puppy. Are you awake? I thought you might be hungry." "Who are you? You brought me here, didn't you? What do you want?" He looked confused, then sadly blurted out, "Oh no, honey. You must have memory loss from the accident. It's your Josh here. I'm your boyfriend." I squinted at him. He did look familiar, but what boyfriend? What accident? He showed me the photos on his phone. OMG! That was me with him, and we looked so happy together. But why can't I remember anything? I hit my head with my hands in frustration, while Josh just stood there against the wall staring at me and giggling. So maybe this Josh guy was my boyfriend, but that didn't explain why he'd locked me up in this dungeon. This wasn't a normal boyfriend thing to do. I rushed to the door, but he grabbed me in his arms. "Let me out! You definitely have some wicked intention going on bringing me here." I scowled. "Oh my gosh, Alice, you've been watching too many movies. Do you really not remember anything?" I gave him a clearly not look, then folded my arms. "I guess the accident was pretty intense. We argued, then you insisted on driving while you were drunk, and then caused a fatal accident. Never mind. I think we shouldn't go in too deep about that right now. It must be traumatizing for you. But that's why I decided to bring you here, so the cops wouldn't arrest you." What? Why couldn't I remember such a horrible thing? But looking at all the wounds on my face and body, maybe everything was exactly like what Josh said. No! I have to confess. I stuttered in tears. "Are you crazy? Do you want to go to jail?" But, Alice, no buts. I'm gonna protect you and keep you safe. This was a lot to process, so in a moment of panic, I found myself agreeing to his crazy plan. Josh said this was an emergency bunker back from his grandfather's time. Sure thing. I mean, it sure smelled musty. There's not even a window, just a flickering wall light. It felt like I was in a horror movie. Josh also told me that he'd taken my phone off me so the cops wouldn't be able to trace it and arrest us both. And that's it. Every morning, noon, and night, Josh would bring me food and talk to me about his day. Puppy, I'm home. Puppy? Oh, it sounded cute at first, but I soon became allergic to that word. Hey, puppy, eat this. Puppy this, puppy that. Puppy, puppy, puppy. I was so fed up with the word puppy that at times I actually thought I was nothing more than a pet to him. Then each night, he insisted on rubbing my back so I'd fall asleep more easily. Sounds nice, right? But no, it wasn't. He rubbed it really hard, and when I asked him to stop, he just laughed. Obviously, he wasn't doing it to make me feel better, but regarded it as a pastime. Ugh! And that's not all. A few times, I'd wake up to see him sitting there, staring at me with this gummy grin on his face. Then, when I checked my hair, I saw that he'd tied loads of these dumb little bows in it. Are you crazy? I'm not a kid! I grumbled while pulling and throwing all those dumb things out of my head. But puppy, they look so cute. Tom always liked them. I glared at him. Didn't bother saying anything anymore. Oh, and FYI, yes, Tom's his old dog's name. Okay, so I didn't need a genius to figure out that something was seriously up with this guy's head. But then, things got weirder. One time, he brought down food for us to eat together. It was fried chicken, and as soon as I smelt it, my eyes sparkled. I was about to take a piece when suddenly he pulled the plate away and took a big bite. I didn't even have time to react. Then he handed me the chicken thigh bone he hadn't finished yet. Help me with the rest, puppy. This part is too hard to gnaw. I rolled my eyes at him and flushed up with anger. Seeing my reaction, he said, What's wrong, puppy? Tom always loved the leftovers. Are you crazy? I screamed. Yo, I'm kidding. Don't you know how to take a joke? He grinned. Kidding? What kind of kidding is that? I've had enough of this. This place was driving me insane. I could hardly sleep at all because I couldn't even distinguish between day and night. Then, when I did close my eyes, I found myself tormented by the serious crime I'd committed. Josh was trying to save me. Yes, but I didn't ask him to do that. I couldn't live like this. I needed to face the truth. I had to turn myself in. The next morning, when Josh brought me breakfast, I told him what I wanted to do. Expectedly, he got mad and glared at me. Alice, why do you want to go to jail so badly? I can't stay here forever. I have to face up to what I've done. But it's so peaceful here with me. Peaceful? Was he being serious? It sure didn't feel peaceful. Instead, I felt like I was playing the role of his pet. I lurched forward, but Josh immediately grabbed me so I couldn't move. I tried squirming my way free, but he was a strong guy. Suddenly, he covered my nose with a handkerchief and my eyes closed. Then everything turned black. I slowly opened my eyes. I was in the same familiar room, but bars. I saw bars! Ugh! I was in a cage! Then I kicked something. It was a water bowl! Puppy, you're so naughty! I can't lose you, so I've put you in here! He grinned at me as he handed me a sandwich. I chucked it away, then screamed at him to let me out. Seeing this, he immediately left and returned with a bunch of plush toys and dropped them in the cage. Hope they'll make you happier. Then he tried to stuff the sandwich into my mouth. Furiously, I took a bite, and spat it in his face, then sneered while throwing the toys at him. Jeez, some of them even squeaked. Wow, okay. His demeanor changed, and his eyes turned scary. If that's what you want, don't blame me later. Things were different after that. Each day, he only gave me a bowl of those gross-smelling biscuits, then he'd just sit there gawping at me. At first, I refused to eat them. But in the end, I was so exhausted that I gave in, even though I'm pretty sure they were dog biscuits. Ugh. I realized that resisting him wasn't benefiting me at all. It was only making him act more horrible. That's when a genius plan popped into my head. So the next time when Josh appeared with the biscuits, I smiled sweetly at him and said, "Josh, baby, it's been so long since we've been on a date. How about you go and get us a bottle of wine, and we can spend some quality time together?" His eyes lit up, and of course, he agreed without hesitation. He hurried off to get the wine. Cheers to us! Josh, you're the love of my life, and I'm so grateful to God for bringing you into my life. Please stay with me forever. I flashed a sweet smile and whispered in his ear. Every time he took a sip of wine, I fluttered my eyelashes at him as I refilled his glass. To say I'm a Hollywood actress with an Oscar-worthy performance would be an understatement. Soon, Josh was so drunk he went cross-eyed. He fell to the ground before I even finished pouring him the last glass of wine. Seizing the opportunity, I stepped over him to get out, when suddenly, a hand grabbed my ankle. Oh no, I'm screwed! My heart felt like it was about to jump out of my chest. I immediately turned around, ready to fight him when, well, it turned out he was just dreaming. Phew. Thank God. I gently pulled my foot free and immediately dashed out of there. I climbed up the stairs to a living room where I found my phone left on the table. I quickly grabbed it and ran out of that horrible house. My legs trembled, and I felt like they might give away beneath me at any second. But somehow, I managed to find the inner strength to keep on running. I couldn't use my phone as it was out of battery, and I was too disoriented to figure out where my home was. So, when I stumbled upon a police station, I walked toward it. I took a deep breath. This was a tough decision. I knew I was going to jail, but I couldn't live in creepy Josh's basement forever and be his substitute pet. No thanks. I had to face up to what I'd done. "Sir, I'm here to confess." The cop looked confused and told me there hadn't been a fatal accident recently. But then he said I looked familiar, so he looked up my name, and turns out my family had reported me missing. That liar Josh had tricked me. It was all a ruse so he could imprison me. How vile! I charged my phone, and up popped hundreds of messages and voicemails from my worried friends and relatives. This was all so overwhelming. I put my head down for a moment. Then all the memories gradually surfaced. I'd been in the mall parking lot, and I felt like someone was following me. So I hid in the corner, and that's when Josh appeared. So I asked him, "Why are you following me?" "Alice, I love you. Please come back to me." I rolled my eyes and started walking away from him. "Go away, weirdo! We're done!" Then he grabbed my shoulder. I shook myself free and ran away, when a car came out of nowhere and... Ugh! Yes, of course. Josh was my crazy, controlling stalker ex. So he must have taken advantage of my unconsciousness to take me back to his basement and come up with his bonkers plan. Then to make things even easier for him, I ended up with memory loss. Typical! It was a nightmare. But thankfully, it's over now. The cops took my statement, and soon after that, my family came to pick me up. They all burst out crying, and we hugged each other tightly. It's taking a while to get back to normal life after all the trauma, but I'm getting there. I do want to vomit whenever I hear anyone say the word puppy. Ugh! However, this didn't stop me from getting my own rescue dog, Lily the corgi, and I never put bows in her fur. As for Josh, well, he was convicted for false imprisonment and has to stay in jail for 4 years. Who's in the cage now? Serves you right. These need to be washed by hand. Kelly threw a pile of clothes on the floor. And be quick about it! Hey, I'm Maya, and that bossy girl is Kelly. Although we live in the same house, we aren't siblings. You see, when I was just a baby, I was adopted by a loving old couple. They lived on a farm in the countryside. Their kids had grown up and left home, and they were both missing the lively energy that only a child could bring. One Sunday at church, they saw the priest raising a baby girl and offered to help. So that's how they ended up taking me home and bringing me up as their grandchild. They were the nicest people, and they showered me in nothing but love and kindness. I'm always more than grateful for them. We lived together happily until one day, when Grandpa was in the orchard, he collapsed. Sadly, he passed away. Grandma was never the same after that. She'd lost her soulmate. Her health also deteriorated, and then one night she called me into her room, and gripping my hand, she said, "Sweetie, you brought so much joy into our lives. Without us, life could be tough. But don't worry, we're always with you. When I'm gone, go find my old purse hidden in the broken tractor in the back barn. We've saved up a little bit for you. Our little Maya have to live your best life. All right?" Then, before I could ask her any more about this, she closed her eyes, and just like that, she'd left me forever. I stayed with her for hours, crying my heart out. Afterward, following Grandma's words, I went in search of the money. Oh, God! I gasped in shock as I opened the purse. There was at least $20,000 here. How did my grandparents manage to save up such an amount of money? I knew they were thrifty, but this was way too much. After that, I moved to Columbus to live with my grandparents' daughter, Mrs. Madison, and her daughter, Kelly. So you're wondering what I did with the money, right? Well, I keep it hidden here, in this crack in the roof. Oh, someone's coming. Your room is disgusting. Anyway, Kelly and I are going out, so make sure you clean everywhere before we get back. I expect it to be spotless. I gave a weak nod and watched her totter away. This wasn't a new occurrence. Every day, they'd mess up the house, then force me to clean it. I know, I was basically the real-life Cinderella. But it's okay. As soon as I turned 18, I'm gonna leave this place anyway and start living my own life with my money. The next morning, it was raining, so I tried to walk to school as fast as possible, when suddenly, Kelly drove past me and deliberately sped through this big puddle. Mud splattered all over me. Jeez, why is torturing me her favorite hobby? My shirt was filthy, and as I walked toward my locker, some girls laughed at me. One even sneered. The dirty look must be trendy in the countryside, but here it just looks tragic. Yeah, I've been in the city for almost a year now, but I still couldn't fit in. Maybe it's because I always wear the same worn-out clothes and borrow all my books from the library. Mrs. Madison refused to buy me anything new, and I couldn't use my own money, as that would look suspicious. I couldn't even afford to go on the school picnic. I'd never be one of them. Then, during recess, the class monitor, Josie, informed everyone that prom was happening soon, and the dress code was formal. While all the other kids squealed and clapped excitedly, I lowered my head and sighed. I had nothing to wear to prom. Maya? Hearing my name broke me from my thoughts, and I realized it was Josie, and standing around her were some of the nice girls from class. You have to come to prom this time. Please? You've never joined us in any other activities before. Don't worry, we will help you look spectacular. I gave an awkward smile and replied, "Thanks, guys, but I can't expect you to do that." They all insisted that I should go, but I remained adamant that it wasn't my kind of thing. Then came Meanie Kelly. "Maya isn't suitable for this type of event." How dare she say that? I mean, just because I wasn't a spoiled princess didn't mean I wasn't suitable to attend. So I turned to Josie and smiled. "Actually, that sounds fun. I will go to the prom." That evening at dinner, I mentioned the prom to Mrs. Madison and suggested that it could be a reward in exchange for doing all the housework. She coldly replied, "You live under my roof rent-free, and now you expect me to do housework for you too? Or what, Your Majesty?" Then she turned to Kelly, smiled, and asked, "Darling, have you decided on a prom dress yet?" Then Kelly showed her mom pictures of gorgeous dresses on her phone while throwing smirks at me. Ugh! I couldn't sit around looking at Kelly's smug face anymore. This time, I definitely had to go to prom and be prettier than her. So that weekend, I went thrift store shopping with Josie, and after looking in about a dozen stores, Josie lifted up this really pretty blue gown. It had a tear down the side, but I knew I could easily sew that up and thrift flip it a little. I'd seen people do that on YouTube. The night of the prom, Josie did my hair and makeup, and I showed up in the dress. I felt like a real-life princess, and everyone was looking at me and giving me compliments, while Kelly stood there with her arms folded and a sulky look on her face. Then this boy called David walked over to me and started talking. Turns out, he was the new senior here. All the girls had their eyes on him, including Kelly, who walked over and tried offering him a drink, but he snubbed her and continued talking to me, leaving her standing there in silent anger before storming out of the prom. I had such a wonderful night with my new friends. I arrived home in a great mood and was happily singing to myself. But this instantly changed when I saw Kelly sitting there waiting for me. "Such a thief! Now, don't tell me this fancy dress just fell down on you from the sky!" Kelly shouted at me. I insisted that I hadn't stolen anything, so she dragged Mrs. Madison to the living room and asked her to check if she had lost any money recently. Mrs. Madison said no without thinking at first, but when she read Kelly's face, she started to fake complaining about some $100 bills missing from her purse, and the two started to jump on me. Ugh! Unbelievable! I ran up to my room and tried to shake away the negative thoughts and think back to how happy I was at prom. Then, as usual, I checked my hiding spot. Huh? What was that noise? I looked towards the stairs, but no one was there. It was probably just the house creaking or something. The next day at school was amazing, as loads of kids stopped and talked to me. Then, when I got home, I went up to my room and double-checked my hiding spot. My heart plummeted in my chest. The purse! It had gone! I frantically searched for it. Then I remembered hearing something last night, and there were only 3 of us in this house. Could it be? Furious, I ran into the living room where Mrs. Madison and Kelly were watching TV. I shouted at them, "My money! I want it back right now!" In an unconcerned tone, Mrs. Madison replied, "What money? What are you talking about? Oh, I see. So you have your own money all along and have been keeping it for yourself? Poof! What an ungrateful brat! Mom lets you live here even though you aren't actually family, and now you're accusing us of stealing? I knew they'd taken my money, but what could I do about it? I had no choice but to go back to my room and cried as I looked at old photos of me with my grandparents. The next day at school, I really wasn't in the mood for lessons. During recess, I was just staring out of the window in despair when I heard a cough, so I looked and saw David there. "Hey, Maya." He smiled at me. "Are you okay? You seem kinda down." "I'm fine." I gathered up my stuff and left. I know he was only being nice, but I wasn't feeling like small-talking right now. Then, after school, Kelly made me carry her heavy backpack home. I had no energy left to argue, so I glumly did as she asked. That's when David drove up alongside me and asked,
Hey, that looks heavy. Do you need a lift?
I nodded and got into his car while forcing a smile to thank him. He asked,
Maya, what's up? You can talk to me, you know. I'm a good listener. Promise.
He's so sweet, and I instantly felt safe around him. We chatted a lot and started hanging out more and more after that. We took walks through the park and had lunch together. I found myself growing closer to him, but not in the way you might think. No, more like a brother. Then, a few weeks later, when Mrs. Madison made me clean up the mess in the house that she'd made again, I found something under her bed. The old purse that Grandma had left me. And the money was all gone! I stormed downstairs and slammed the purse onto the kitchen table. But Mrs. Madison shrugged.
It was my mother's purse. Therefore, that money belongs to me. You obviously stole it from my poor elderly parents.
Kelly backed up her mom with her annoying tone. Wow, how low do you have to be to con a sick old lady into giving you her life savings? Grandma left it for me, not you! You two are monsters! I screamed at them, took the purse, and went up to my room. I started to pack, then I was leaving here once and for all. Only, when I went to try the door, I couldn't open it. OMG, they'd locked me in! Worse still, in all the drama, I'd left my phone downstairs, so I couldn't even call David for help. The next day, Mrs. Madison let me out, but only on the condition that I did all the housework, and from now on, I wasn't allowed to go to school or anything like that. And if I broke this rule, she'd make sure I ended up in trouble for stealing the money. So, it is what it is. I had no choice. They've got me on a string. One afternoon, I was out front watering the flowers when Mrs. Madison shouted out from the living room.
No! Not the roses! Water the ones over there! You useless girl!
Then suddenly, I felt someone yank my arm. It's David. He was worried about my absence, so he came to check on me.
Maya, there's someone I want you to meet.
Then he signaled me to follow him. I had no idea where David was taking me, but anything would be a way better option than listening to any more of Mrs. Harrison's nagging, so I got in his car. He took me to his house, and there was this man in there. I suppose it's David's dad, but then, with tear-filled eyes, the man blurted out,
Maya, it's you, my daughter. You're finally home.
Huh? What? So, after I sat down and had a sip of water to brace myself for whatever was about to come, the two told me about how when I was a baby, my mom got sick and passed away. My dad struggled to look after me and my brother, so he gave me to a priest. Eventually, my dad managed to turn his life around, and knowing that I'd been adopted by the elderly couple, he started sending money to them to help them raise me. Then, when he came to find me, I wasn't there anymore. He found out that I was living with the daughter of an elderly couple in Columbus, so he moved to this city with the hope of finding me. It was such a coincidence that David ended up attending the same school as me. David said that the first time he saw me, he felt this strange bond right away, and how amazing that this gut feeling was right, as it soon became clear I was his long-lost sister. Wow, this was a lot to take in, but it was the greatest news ever! I left Mrs. Madison's house after that, of course, and moved in with my dad and brother. And for the first time since I'd lost my grandparents, I found myself feeling truly happy again. Now, you're probably wondering what became of Mrs. Madison and Kelly. Well, I was walking past their house the other day and saw a for sale sign in the yard. Turns out, Mrs. Madison had been spending money like water and now was in debt, so she was having to sell the house. I don't want to gloat or anything, but I guess that's karma for them.
Hello, Dana? Have you heard from Vicky yet? I anxiously asked. Vicky hadn't shown up for school, but she wasn't at home either. She'd gone AWOL. and I was frantic with worry, especially as it passed 10 p.m. already. "No, this is very out of her character. Martin, tell me what's going on between you two." I facepalmed. Ugh, the word complicated wouldn't even be enough to describe this situation. It's a long story. Let me just tell you from the beginning. It started way back when I was just a kindergarten kid. I met my first ever enemy, Vincent Green. We just didn't see things eye to eye from the get-go. One normal day, I just finished my Lego city when Vincent charged over like Godzilla and smashed it to pieces. And so the war between us continued, one that carried on throughout our school years. He sabotaged everything I did and vice versa. One time when it was my turn to sing in music class, Vincent made fart noises and the whole class burst out laughing. Fair and square, that same day I poured liquid glue over his art collage. Another time he stuck a note on my back saying, "I wet the bed." Seriously, I was getting really paranoid as to why all these kids were laughing and pointing at me. Ugh. So in return, I put this fluffy pink teddy in his backpack. And in class, when he went to pull out his pencil case, the teddy flew out and landed in the middle of the room. Back then, Vincent had already seemed to be quite a girl magnet. I guess they viewed him as a pretty boy, but come on. All kids look the same, right? So I started going around telling everyone, "Vincent only wants to play with the girls. Ew, gross." 5 years later, and our feud was still ripe. Vincent was great at studying, and baseball too. He was the PE teacher's favorite. And I know this sounds stupid, but that being flocked by girl thing was no longer gross. It was like a medal of honor. I tried so hard to be better than Vincent in everything. I was also one of the top students. I joined the soccer team. And I also had girls surrounding me. Still, that was not enough. Not until Vincent accepted his defeat. But then middle school started, and guess what? Vincent wasn't there. Finally, I was free of him. Now I could stay on top, flirt with girls, and become basketball captain without him trying to sabotage me. All eyes were on me, and it was fantastic. Although there was a small part of me that missed the competitiveness. Then on another day, like every other day in high school, I was walking along the corridor and noticed that all the girls were getting in a frenzy about something. "What's going on?" I asked my best friend Tyler when I arrived at my locker. "Not sure. It's probably the new boy or something. Girls are squealing all over the place." I didn't feel good about this. And then, just like in those slow-mo Korean drama scenes, the new boy ambled along the hall charmingly smiling, one hand holding a baseball bat, the other air-shooting girls. My face was slowly getting hot, eyes goggled at the new boy. Yes, it was Vincent. He slid past me, sneered and winked. What a lousy jerk. That was definitely another declaration of war. A few days later, I saw Vincent everywhere, applying for class president, competing for the baseball team captain position, and flirting with pretty much every girl in school. Ugh, he was like a bad rash that wouldn't go away. To make it worse, his grades from previous schools somehow ended up published online, which made everyone go giddy for him. Ugh, Vincent Green, you just wait for it. However, he would have to probably wait forever, because I was ready to give up all the competitive intentions the moment I met Vicky. It was at lunchtime. I was having lunch with Tyler in the school garden when Dana, Tyler's girlfriend, came over. Behind her was an angel. I was stunned, mouth wide open. My half-eaten sandwich even fell from my hand. Dana said, "Hi boys, this is Vicky, my best friend. She used to be my neighbor until her family moved away. But she's just transferred back here now." Vicky gave us both a friendly smile. I, of course, took that chance and befriended her right away. Soon, Vicky and I started hanging out. When I was with her, it felt like everyone else had been muted. She was this ray of light in the darkness. She was perfect for me. Smart, beautiful, exquisite. And she was the only girl in school who didn't go all fluttery around Vincent. Actually, she hadn't so much as mentioned him once. I invited her over to my house, and my parents liked her so much they asked her to stay for dinner. Afterward, Vicky suggested watching a movie. The time whizzed past, and soon it was 10 p.m., and she had to leave. Let me take you home," I insisted. But she told me her brother was already on his way. So I led her down to the living room to wait. The doorbell rang. I went to answer to find Vincent standing there. We both froze and glared at each other. What on earth was he doing here? That's when Vicky walked over to him and said, "Let's go." Then she turned to me and kissed me on the cheek. Aw, sweet. But I couldn't think about this right now. Why was my mortal enemy at my front door? Vincent grunted. Vicky, what's going on here?" I also snarled. "Yeah, Vicky, what's he doing here?" Despite the death stares we were giving each other, she just shrugged. Oh, Vinny, this is my boyfriend Martin. Martin, this is Vincent, my brother. Brother? My wonderful and perfect girlfriend is Vincent Green's sister? No, 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 no! Yo, you're dating this loser? Vincent pointed a shaking finger at me. You are really that jerk's sister? I was trembling even more, while Vicky seemed unbothered as she walked toward the car. Vincent immediately growled at me. Stay away from my sister, before he quickly chased after her. I stood there deadly still, a horrified look on my face. I probably resembled some sort of gargoyle. No way. How could an amazing girl like Vicky be related to that jerk? The next day, Vicky texted me to meet her at the cafe. We need to talk. Uh-oh, no man ever wants to hear those words. Talk about a bad omen. But we were meant to be going on a double date with Tyler and Dana tonight, weren't we? I entered the cafe to see Vicky sitting there, looking all sulky with her arms folded. Oh no, this didn't look good. Before I even had a chance to sit down, she blurted out, Martin, why have you never told me about your arch enemy? Do you have any idea how big of a fight Vincent and I had last night? I sat there open-mouthed. Truth was, since meeting Vicky, I no longer cared about Vincent or our war. I only wanted to focus on Vicky. She made me so happy. I explained this to her, and she replied, Vincent still hates you. He's forbidden me from meeting you again. Of course, I'm not listening to him, but I want you to both solve this dumb feud. There is nothing to solve. He started this back when we were just little kids. He's a grade A jerk. I started to get heated. Vicky sighed. I mean it. You guys need to talk. As for me, I'm not going to let Vincent tell me who I can and can't see. I was so mad at that dude, I just refused to understand her words. I repeatedly came back at her that I didn't want to solve anything with Vincent. Then it got worse. Being as stupid as I could, I blurted out, It's either him or me, so who's it going to be? Vicky furiously stood up, shouted, How dare you make me choose a side? I love you, but that's my brother, then stormed off. Did she just say she loved me? Oh man, what had I just done? To my surprise, the double date still went ahead. The four of us were in this Italian restaurant, but Vicky hadn't said a word. This was so awkward. When Vicky was in the restroom, Dana gave me a piece of advice. You should listen to Vicky. Go make peace with Vincent. Then, to my annoyance, Tyler also agreed with Dana. I ignored that and asked Dana to take Vicky home. Later, we got into another big fight on the phone. I couldn't understand why she kept telling me to reconcile with that idiot. Just because she didn't want to stand between two rivals? Furiously, I said, I hate your brother. So there's no way I'm going to reconcile. If you love me, you'll be on my side. Vicky yelled out, Both of you are so childish, and neither of you care about my feelings. Then she hung up. So that was the story. Now this brings you up to date, and I have zero clue as to where my girlfriend is. I need to find her, and if that involves putting my differences with Vincent aside, then so be it. So I called everyone to the park, including him. What you two did to Vicky was so obviously wrong, Tyler spoke up. Being stuck in the middle of her bro and her boyfriend must suck. Neither of you even stopped to consider her feelings. Dana continued. Vicky loves you both very much. Don't make her choose. You guys should talk. Then both of them stood up and left us there. Vincent and I sat in awkward silence for a while. Eventually, he cleared his throat. I have to admit that I've been envying you. All the girls adored you. You're smart and great at sports. Vicky falling for you proves that you'd finally defeated me. That's why I got so mad. I looked at him with wide eyes. That was exactly what I thought about Vincent. I always felt like second fiddle to him. Always. I told him this, then we both scratched our heads and laughed. Then I said, Geez, what a couple of insecure losers we are. Vincent replied, Yeah, we're both pretty stupid for a pair of smart guys. Truce? He held out his hand and I shook it. We realized that no amount of attention could compare to the love we got from our girl Vicky. Suddenly, something popped up in my head. I know where Vicky is, I said. Let's go, Uncle Vinny. Vincent and I called Tyler and Dana, and then we went to the 24/7 cafe, where Vicky usually took me. There I found her dozing on a couch on the second floor. I gently shook her and said, Wakey, wakey, sleeping beauty, you gave us all a fright. When she saw that Vincent was there too, and we weren't biting each other's heads off, she gave this huge smile. After that, we all sat down and chatted over hot chocolates and cookies. Finally, the infinity war between two rivals had come to an end. I no longer have an enemy. Instead, I have a new close friend. It's funny how things turn out sometimes, isn't it? Now I'm a part of a group of 5 wonderful people, especially my girlfriend. What more can I ask for? Life is beautiful.
On my very first day of high school, I showed up in my extreme goth girl attire as every other day. I felt good, but unfortunately, the teacher didn't appreciate my look, as she gave me this disgusted stare and blurted out, "How peculiar." Excuse me? So how do you define normal? How come being your true self is abnormal, but it's totally fine to live a fake, boring life just to fit into this judgmental society? The whole class gasped and stared at me. As for the teacher, I'd rendered her speechless. I guess word got around, as at recess this red-haired goth boy smiled at me, then said, "Hey, it's Miranda, right? Do you want to join my group?" Well, no need to ask twice. This guy was cute. And everyone in this group was goth too. This was where I belonged. They share my views on how the media's unattainable standards of beauty are fake, and how pathetic everyone is for striving to look like mass-produced dolls. Ugh. I like them. Actually, I didn't have many friends. You see, as soon as I discovered my true identity at 13 and started dressing this way, my old friends ditched me. People are always so quick to judge and don't gel well with others that are different. It's so lame. But whatever. Those bland blenders could never understand my effort to stand out and be true to myself. The only girl who stuck around was Isabel. She's been my best friend since we were 6. And my black lipstick and chokers didn't scare her off. My parents just thought I was going through a rebellious phase, so they let me do what I wanted. Only my older sister Harper was bitter about it. Oh, please! Biologically and technically, you are not a goth. You're an American who likes the gothic style. Jealous much? You see, Harper was your standard girl next door type. Just like everybody else. Yawn. Whatever. As it's her business. I don't care. But please don't force me to be like her. Ugh! Okay, back to school things. From that day onward, I joined the goths. They were all very cool. Especially the red-haired guy, Ralph. The more time I spent with him, the more I knew we were made for each other. So one time, I confided in Isabel about my feelings for him and told her I was planning to ask him to be my boyfriend. Are you sure? It's just you haven't known him long and you don't know how he feels about you. Oh, bless. Isabel was being her usual sweet, caring, worried self. But come on, this was a sure bet. It's okay, Izzy. I'm the coolest one, not only in my group, but also in this school. There's no way he can turn me down. No. Ralph's answer cut right through me without any hesitation. I haven't even finished my love confession. Ouch. Seeing me dead still and mouth wide open, Ralph continued, "Look, Miranda, your style is so cool, and I know you're one of us, but honestly, whenever I talk to you, I think it's just so tasteless. Besides, I'm already dating Aaron, so we should just be friends." Tasteless? What did he mean, tasteless? And OMG, Aaron? Unbelievable. Her goth makeup and outfits were no way near as good as mine. What did she have that I didn't? Furious, I stomped home, rushed to my room, and screamed into my pillow. On hearing this, Harper hurried in and asked me what was up. I needed to talk to someone, so I blurted it all out to her. Wow, she raised her eyebrows. Rude. Still, she paused, scratching her chin. Uh-oh. I know she always does that thing whenever she's about to say something mean. You know, that Ralph guy does have a point. I mean, instead of spending 3 hours a day applying endless layers of makeup, you could use that time to learn how to be less boring. She shrugged. What? Shut up! Get out of my room! I furiously pushed her out and slammed the door. But, come to think of it, what if the other kids stopped being friends with me, and not because of my look, but due to my tastelessness? Nah, that can't be the case. Pfft, Harper was just being her usual ridiculous self. So I stayed loyal to myself throughout high school and continued to live life my way. No one can make me change my mind, ever. Yeah, I know senior year is important, which is why I made a conscious effort to attend the college enrollment fair. After a while of wandering around, I found myself drawn to the social science section of one university. This was it. This is what I wanted to major in. This was so exciting. I'd finally found something else amazing besides the goth lifestyle. That night I asked Harper to take a photo of me to send with my application file. She gave me this dirty look and replied, "Pfft, you really think they'd want to interview a student looking like they belong in Dracula's castle?" No, she did not just say that. How disrespectful. Why do people care so much about appearances? You pick someone due to their caliber, not the surface. Well, if looks are not so important, why don't you just quit being angry, get changed, and just take a simple photo? Harper raised her voice. Ugh, arguing with her was pointless. So I ran back to my room and locked myself in there for 2 whole days. Ugh, I hated this world. I had a lot of thinking time, which made me realize I do really want to major in social science. So I decided to listen to Harper, remove my makeup, fix my hair, and borrow her clothes for the picture. Oh my God! No, I can't even look in the mirror. I looked horrible. But Harper thought otherwise. I told her to just take the dumb photo. But she ran off and dragged along my parents, who cooed and clapped on seeing my new look. You look so beautiful, honey. My mom held her chest. Were those tears in her eyes? Oh, man, this was so lame. This wasn't me. I'm not some insignificant, boring-looking girl. Ugh! As soon as Harper took the photo, I darted toward the door, desperate to return to my goth look. Please, Miranda. My parents both grabbed my arms. You look so much better this way. But this isn't me. If I don't stay goth, then I'll be losing myself. I shook them off. A few weeks later, I got a reply from the university. I had got through to the online interview stage. Whoa! But this time, I wouldn't change myself. During the interview, one professor asked me about my social experiences, such as part-time jobs or social volunteer services. I hadn't done any. I'd thought of that once in a while, but due to my goth look, I didn't get to work anywhere. I admitted that to the professor and proudly announced, being goth is my true identity. A few weeks later, I received their response email. Harper, Isabel, and my parents gathered around me in the living room, but, oh no, I muttered out once I opened the email. They rejected me. I stood up and tearfully ran back to my room, while Isabel followed me. Don't worry. Isabel sat down next to me and rubbed my arm. They have another enrollment in the autumn, so you still have a few more months to prepare. I don't need it anymore, just leave me alone. I must have freaked her out, as she quietly left after that. The next day, I was so bummed out, so I went to see my goth friends. Surely my own kind would make me feel better, right? People are ridiculous, but no one can stop us from being ourselves, Ralph heroically said. Well, I didn't feel any better, but at least there was someone on the same page with me. Still in a frustrated mood, I later on skipped dinner and went straight to my room. Harper then entered my room and talked to me in a serious tone. Stop sulking. I've seen that email and your profile. Here's the ugly truth. They didn't reject you because you're a goth. They rejected you because you're just a bland person with below average grades and no social experience whatsoever. I threw my pillow at her, demanded she leave my room right now and never come back. But that night I couldn't sleep. Her words were bugging me. I don't know, maybe she was kind of right. I mean, I guess I could do more to help my case, as I knew I really, really wanted to study that major at that university. So the next day I started looking for a part-time job. But everywhere required this gross uniform and decent look. Jeez, come on! I just can't. I felt so terrible being something that I'm not. I was about to give up when Isabel came to me and said, Be strong. Think about your dream college and your future. She patted my back. This is just temporary, okay? What a sweet friend she is. All right, gotta get back on my feet. I patiently kept looking, and finally, a cafe accepted me as a waitress. Of course, no goth look though. Ugh. One evening after work, I was about to go home when I ran into the goth group. Hey guys! I cheerfully greeted them. What's the event tonight? Noticing their confused look, I said, It's me, Miranda. They burst out laughing. Seriously? Miranda, is it really you? Then some of them pulled out their phones and started taking pictures. My Instagram is gonna love this. While the others kept ridiculing me, this was heartbroken. I thought they were my people. Why didn't they give me even a second to explain? Now it turns out they were the most judgmental people ever. What a toxic group of friends. I wasn't going to waste my time hanging out with them anymore. Lesson learned. Over the next few months, I focused on working at the cafe, and I joined a group of active young people, handing out food for homeless people and helping nurses at old people homes. I'd experienced so many new things, and to be honest, I got used to this mediocre look. Actually, there's this one guy in my volunteer group. He's called Roger, and I may have a slight crush on him. At first, I didn't even notice him because he looks normal. Basic haircut, t-shirts, jeans, and sneakers. Until one time, in the nursing home, I was struggling with this very bitter and difficult old lady who was accusing me of stealing her slippers. Then Roger, with his gentle nature and soothing voice, slid in and diffused the situation. On top of that, he was an amazing storyteller, as he always mesmerized everyone around, including me. Okay, so looking normal didn't mean someone was boring. Yeah, I know the saying, don't judge a book by its cover. Well, it turns out that saying is 100% true. In early October, Harper helped me apply again. And guess what? I successfully passed the online interview and received an offer email. My family was in seventh heaven. My parents couldn't stop the happy tears, while Harper just proudly smiled at me, and Isabel hugged me tightly. We even went on vacation to celebrate. It was terrific. Now, I still love my gothic look, but at the same time, I love my natural look too. I've realized that identifying yourself by how you look on the surface is nonsense, and so is judging people by the way they look. Having an interesting life and being beautiful is not just about obsessively focusing on how you appear. It comes from within. Wait, is that Roger over there? Oh no, he's coming this way. He's waving at me. Perhaps this is my chance.
I was minding my own business when I noticed everyone was giving me weird looks. What's wrong? I turned the corner and saw Cynthia and her followers blocking my locker. Oh, great!
There she is, the girl that's into old men.
Aw,
Is it because you don't have an actual dad, so you found yourself a sugar daddy instead?
OMG! What is she talking about? Everyone was gawping at me, and her friends burst out laughing. Panicked, I turned around and ran to the restroom. Those girls are so vile. How can they have taken such a simple situation and manipulated it? I locked myself in the cubicle and didn't dare come out. A knock at the door caused me to flinch, but then I heard a familiar voice.
Nicole? It's me, Olivia.
Are you okay? I opened the door and saw my friend standing there, looking at me with concern. She hugged me, then led me out into the hallway where Miss Barnes was waiting for me. The rumors had reached her, and she wanted to talk to me about it. Sweetie, I want to help you, but you need to tell me everything. I had nothing to hide, so straight away, I told her everything about Sean, who's my karate teacher. We became friends since we shared the love for guitars, killer karate moves, and old-school punk rock bands. When I finished, she said, "To be honest, I find it a bit peculiar that a man his age is choosing to spend so much time with a young girl. I think it's best I have a little chat with this Sean. So please, can you give him a call and invite him over?" Sean came straight over, and as he chatted to Mrs. Barnes in her office, I nervously waited outside with Olivia. I'm just a girl without a dad. Sean is kind, and he treats me like his own daughter. What Cynthia said is cruel and untrue.
Don't worry. No one believes Cynthia. They all know what she's like.
A few moments later, Sean stepped out of the office. He scratched his head as he told me to say goodbye to Miss Barnes and Olivia, as he was driving me home. In the car, I asked, "What did you say to Miss Barnes that made her agree to let me go with you?" I said that the child would be around your age." Huh?
What did he mean by that? Then he continued, Nicole, I have a long-lost child. I've been desperate to see them and be in their life, but it didn't work out like that. Then I met you, and I found myself bonding with you as if you were my own child. Hearing that, I asked right away, Sean, would you like to be my dad? He gave me this dumbfounded look, so I excitedly continued. I mean, you're single, right? So's my mom. Why don't you two meet up and have a date? Just give it a try, please. Whoa, if Sean was my dad, my life would be fantastic. I smiled from ear to ear, seeing him bewildered. In my head, I instantly began planning their first date. Eek! This was the most exciting thing ever! But my good mood soon evaporated, as waiting for me on the doorstep with crossed arms and a stern expression was my mom. This was definitely not the time to introduce them, so I quickly thanked Sean and hurried inside. Who's that man? She questioned me. I received a call from Miss Barnes, so I've been waiting for you. Who is that stranger? He's my karate teacher. He's just... Then Mom interrupted me. Why exactly is a man double your age choosing to spend time with a teenage girl? Don't worry, Mom. When you meet him, you'll see what a great guy he is. The next day, I arranged for them to have a lunch date at this quaint cafe in town. But the moment Mom walked in and saw him, she turned ghostly pale. Sean was also surprised. He stuttered, Louise? My mom cleared her throat. Ahem! Sean? This was confusing. I looked back and forth at them as if I was watching an intense game of tennis. So, they knew each other? Oh well, less time wasted on getting to know each other. So, I'm gonna leave you to it. I waved at them, then hurried out of there and sat on a bench nearby. But it hadn't even been 5 minutes when Mom stormed over. Let's go! And dragged me away. I forbid you from seeing that man again! What was happening? I was freaking out as I followed her. Mom! Slow down! At least explain why! I shouted, but she bundled me into the car, then drove off, red-faced and silent. Through the car window, I saw Sean run outside of the cafe and stare at me with a saddened look on his face. Mom, you know him? I asked. She said, That's none of your business. You just have to know that you are not allowed to see him ever again. Why? I yelled as I started tearing up. He's nice to me. Why can't I be friends with him? Because you have to listen to your mother. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was Sean. I picked up, and he told me to turn the speaker so he could talk to Mom. Louise, it's me, Sean. Mom gave a startled yelp and told me to hang up, but I ignored her. Sean continued. Louise, listen. Is Nicole my daughter? What? Did I hear him right? Can someone please explain what was going on? Louise, tell me. Is Nicole my daughter? Mom snatched the phone off me, ended the call, then threw it onto the back seat. I was too overwhelmed to find any words to say, so we both sat there in shocked silence. The moment we entered our house, seeing that I was desperate to speak, Mom spoke up first. Nicole, please don't ask anything. I'll explain later, okay? I really wanted to know what had happened between them, but I knew there was no reasoning with Mom when she was being like this. So I quietly went up to my room. I couldn't sleep, as too many thoughts were buzzing around my head. Could Sean really be my dad? I mean, I'd never met my real dad, and whenever I asked Mom about him, she got super defensive. Mom and Sean clearly had history. So what if we're actually related? Unsurprisingly, I couldn't concentrate in school. I kept on yawning in class and playing over yesterday's events over and over in my head. When school's out, to my surprise, Sean was waiting for me at the school gate. We went to a coffee house, and there he told me the truth. Back in high school, I fell in love with my classmate. After a while, she suddenly told me she was pregnant and broke up with me. I definitely wanted to support and care for both of them, but she refused, then moved away. The last thing she told me was to stay away and never ever look for them.
Before I had time to process his words, he smiled at me and continued.
Nicole, I believe that you're my daughter. But first, we need to talk to your mom and have her clear this up.
Whoa, this was a lot to take in. But at the same time, it was also pretty awesome. I was so happy I had a father. And better still, it was Sean. I took Sean to my house to talk to Mom, but just as we stepped inside, I got a message from Olivia. Check your social media. Cynthia's just posted something about you. Oh no! There was a photo of me getting into Sean's car with the caption, "Need tips on getting a sugar daddy? Ask Nicole." I freaked out. Now, thanks to Cynthia, everyone would misjudge me and make fun of me. I was so furious that when Mom walked over, I couldn't hold it in anymore. This is all your fault! Now everyone believes lies about me, and it's all because you won't tell me the truth. Mom gave me this hurt look, sighed, and softly said,
You're right. I do owe you both the truth.
Then she turned to Sean.
When I told you I was pregnant, that was a lie.
What? How could she lie about something like that?
I didn't want to be with you anymore, but I was too scared to break up with you decently. So I made that story up, believing that it'd scare you away. But when you said you'd stick around and support us both, I panicked. So I moved away to college and found a new boyfriend. Then I fell pregnant with Nicole. But this boyfriend wasn't ready to be a father, so he abandoned us both.
As I tried to absorb this new information, I found myself feeling an overwhelming sense of disappointment. Perhaps Sean felt the same, as he muttered out,
I can't be around you right now. Goodbye, Louise.
Then he left. My world had come crashing down around me. I didn't know what to do or say, so I just locked myself in my room and sat there in silence. A few days later at school, Olivia came running over to me and blurted out, Have you heard? Cynthia's been suspended for spreading false rumors about people. Now everyone knows that she's a liar. Well, I'm glad everyone knows, but honestly, Cynthia and her fake stories didn't really bother me anymore. I had bigger things to worry about, like Sean. I hadn't heard anything from him since Mom's confession, and I really hoped he was okay. Then, a week later, Sean texted me.
Nicole, I care for you as if you were my own daughter. I don't want to lose you from my life. There's more. I've done some research, and I've found your dad. If you want, I'll take you to meet him.
Gulp! I was finally going to meet my real dad. On the way there, Sean lightened me up chatting about guitars and tuning on Joy Division. It was so good to have him back in my life. I guess it's normal for kids who don't know a parent to imagine what they'd be like, right? Well, when I came face to face with my real dad, the reality didn't match my expectations. I showed him a photo of me and Mom, and he denied ever knowing her and slammed the door in my face. Ouch. Sean made sure I was okay, then drove me back. The moment I arrived home, I flung myself on the couch and cried into the cushion. He must have filled Mom in on what had happened, as she rushed over to me.
Honey, I'm so sorry. It's all my fault, because I'm a coward who couldn't deal with my own issues. But things will be different from now on. I promise.
Then Sean knelt down next to me.
Nicole, I meant what I said before. I view you as a daughter. And if it's okay with your mom, I'd love to be your dad.
Mom nodded her head and said,
Yes, if that's what Nicole wants.
I leaped up and hugged them both. At that moment, I realized I don't care if my biological dad didn't want to know me. I didn't need him, as I already have Mom and Sean. Now, my mom has learned to be brave and confront her problems, instead of running away from them. She now co-parents me with Sean, and even though they aren't back together, they are great friends. And you know what? I've never been happier.
Here's the rest.
Thank you so much. No problem. Congrats to you both. You're probably thinking, why is that girl so happy about giving me money? Well, it's my consulting fee for helping to win over her crush. Yep, it all started about a month ago when, thanks to my amazing advice, my BFF Haley won over this hot boy, Luke. And the best part is, it only took one picture. Well, I know that boys like Luke are so fed up with dating the popular, hard-to-please girls. So when my cute, sweet-natured friend handed him a sketch she drew of him, then shyly confessed her feelings for him, as expected, Luke fell head over heels for her. How did I come up with such a cool plan, you ask? Well, I basically have the superpower to read boys' minds. That, and I also know the real personality of each type of boy. Why? It's because I've lived with my 3 wonderful brothers for the past 15 years. And every day, I had to put up with their bad habits. Ugh. Such as my eldest brother, Axel, the jock. Outside, he was always shiny and well-groomed, but at home, he never tidied his room and once went a full week without bathing. Ew! Then there's my second oldest brother, Stefan, the prodigy who didn't say much. Unless he's at home. Then he won't quit bragging about everything in the world. I swear, I've never seen him be quiet for more than a minute. Then lastly is my youngest brother, Gavin, the friendly one. Haley thinks he's so kind and gentlemanly, but she doesn't see him at home when he's always teasing me and stealing my food. God, just talking about it makes my blood boil. So tell me, ain't I qualified to open a relationship counseling service with such broad knowledge of guys yet? And actually, it was Haley's idea. She'll go find clients, and I will give advice to help them win their crush's heart. And up till now, our consulting success rate is 100%. So it's not surprising that our name quickly spread throughout the school. One day, I was eating lunch when Haley ran up to me and excitedly said, "We have a big client." Who is it? Turns out it was Claire, a popular mean girl at school. I immediately shook my head. I'm not going to do it. You know I don't like Claire at all. Come on, she's paying double than usual. Nope, I don't want to help her. But Madeline, please, I already took her money. What? Was she being serious? Then, meeting my glare, Haley hurriedly continued. You see, Claire is already super popular. So, with your brilliant mind full of tips and tricks, she'll get the guy, and you'll get the validation. I suppose this would be good for the consultancy. Besides, Haley had a point. Regardless of the type of boy, I always knew what was needed to attract him. Okay, so who's our target? Ryan. What? Ryan, as in the nerd? Claire likes him? In response, Haley just smiled, nodded, and then bit into her lunch. Well, I didn't expect that. But whatever, that was Claire's business. Even if the target was a nerdy boy known for hating girls and not dating, it couldn't intimidate this Madeline. So, I embarked on the tactic mission for Claire. Now, let's see. A nerd would definitely fall for a girl with the same interests as him, right? So, the very next day, as planned, Claire was waiting for Ryan in front of the literature class. Seeing Ryan from afar, she immediately pulled out the book Wuthering Heights and pretended to be reading intently. But Ryan just passed by without even glancing at her, so she immediately chased after him and read a paragraph aloud. But Ryan kept on walking and even put his headphones back on. At this point, Claire could only stand there and stomp her feet. Well, that was a big fail. Seems like I needed to change the strategy. What about Lego? I mean, what nerd didn't like that? With this in mind, I spent the whole day helping Claire assemble a model of Hogwarts to give to Ryan. She proudly showed him the masterpiece, but he muttered out, "No thanks," then walked off, leaving Claire with a dumbfounded look on her face. And so, over and over again, from getting Claire to give him Star Wars cookies, to sticking a picture on his locker of her dressed as Black Widow, my tricks just didn't work on Ryan. God, why was this guy so odd? A few days later, as I was putting my books in my locker, Claire appeared and said snidely, "What kind of services are you guys providing? It's been weeks. Why hasn't Ryan noticed me?" Slow but steady, just keep with it. Trust me. Poof, trust you? I'll only give you another week. If you don't get the job done by then, I'll make sure everyone knows how much your advice sucks. Then she left. Ugh, what an obnoxious snob. But what else can I do? I must finish the job, else my consultancy services would be over. Besides, this Madeline couldn't fail like that. And that's when I had an idea. As you can see, Ryan is engrossed in writing an essay on his laptop. And there's me, Claire, and Haley sitting on the table nearby, pretending to read books, when in actual fact, we were watching Ryan's moves. Suddenly, Ryan let out a yelp, which made the whole library jump and gained him a dirty glare from the librarian. Then Claire sashayed over to him and said in a sweet voice, "Hey Ryan, is everything okay?" "No, my laptop's glitched out. My important essay is on there and I haven't saved it. This can't be happening." He jabbed at the keys. "I'll take a look. I'm pretty good with computers." She leaned over the laptop. Suddenly, Ryan's laptop made a noise and came back on, and the essay was perfectly fine. Wow, who would have thought that a hot girl like Claire would be such an IT expert, right? Ryan profusely thanked Claire and even invited her to lunch. Aha! Success, finally! But hey, don't tell me you also believe that Claire knows that much about computers. Of course not. It's all thanks to my brother Stefan. He showed me how to quickly install software to make it look like it was broken. So I used it on Ryan's laptop when he went to grab a book. My bro also showed me the secret code to get it working again in a flash, and I passed this on to Claire. Finally, the most difficult mission I've ever faced was over, and Claire and Ryan were officially dating. I wanted to celebrate, so I planned a movie trip with Haley. But then Luke surprised her with amusement park tickets, and she canceled to go with him. Ugh, so much for mates before dates. So here I am alone. It's safe to say I was in a bad mood, but then to make it worse, the couple sitting behind me kept teasing each other, loudly smooching, and even kicking my chair. Ugh, I can't take it anymore. I turned around and was about to give them a piece of my mind. Huh? It was Claire with Jackson, the troublemaker from math class. The two of them also panicked when they saw me. What is this? Didn't she just ask me to help win over Ryan? Before I could ask her what was going on, she dragged me into the lobby. You better keep quiet about this or else. I don't get it. I thought you liked Ryan. Please. Of course I don't actually like that nerd. I'm just using him. If you tell anyone about this, I'll make sure your consulting service is finished. What? Is she threatening me? Well, it's true that she paid for the consulting service, but that doesn't mean I accept her using me for malicious purposes. I couldn't just stand by and watch Claire play with Ryan's feelings like this. So I left the movie theater and went around to Ryan's house. As soon as he opened the door, I blurted the truth out to him. He looked bummed out about it, and then shouted at me to go away. Please, Ryan, we can't let her get away with this. We need to teach her a lesson. He thought about this, then eventually nodded and gruffly said, Yeah, fine, whatever. Luckily, that weekend, Claire's parents invited Ryan over for dinner. Now, let the payback plan commence. It's Claire. My phone went off, so I borrowed my sister's to text you. Come over in 15 minutes. I miss you so much.
Okay, on my way. Love you. X.
I was going over the plan once again in my head, then I suddenly saw someone sneaking near Claire's bedroom window. It was Jackson. He quickly climbed into Claire's room. I texted Ryan at once. The prey has arrived, then climbed in after Jackson. Seeing me, Jackson was frantic.
What on earth are you doing here?
Right at that moment, we heard footsteps outside. Afraid to be caught, Jackson ran over to the window to escape, but I quickly rushed over to block his way.
What are you two doing in Claire's room?
That was Claire's mom, and behind her was Ryan, and a panicked-looking Claire.
Claire, please can you explain to me why there appears to be a gathering taking place in your room?
Claire gave a flustered look, then blurted out, Well, I'm dating Jackson. I only lied to you that I was dating Ryan because he's a top student, so you wouldn't stop me going out to see him, as I knew you'd never accept Jackson. It turns out, Claire's parents were so excited about her daughter dating such a smart boy like Ryan that they wanted to invite him over, which is why she hired me to help. They were furious to learn she'd been deceiving them. And no surprises, they grounded her for a month with no allowance. Poor her, but she had it coming. So, now what? Well, I decided to stop the consultancy service. I love helping people, but I don't like seeing anyone get hurt. Most people used my service for the right reasons, but I can never be sure that someone wouldn't use it for the wrong reasons again, and I don't want to be any part of that. It's not all bad anyway, as I've made a new friend out of it. Ryan. Speaking of which, he once caught up with me after class and said, "Hey, I need your consultancy help. It's pretty urgent." I sighed and replied, "Ryan, you know I don't do that anymore." "But you owe me one. I want you to help me ask this cute girl out. I really like her. Her name is Madeline." Huh? I didn't know any other Madelines. Oh, hang on. Did he mean me? Right on cue, Haley and Luke appeared. "Hey, Ryan, if Madeline rejects your case, I'll do it. I have a lot of experience, too." I rolled my eyes at her, then peered at Ryan. OMG, he liked me. I couldn't stop blushing. It looks like this matchmaker may have just accidentally managed to match herself.